Senator Babbitt.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. Now, I rise here in support of Senator McKim's urgency motion. Now, Senator McKim and I, we obviously have vastly different political views, but there is one thing that we can always agree on, and that is transparency. And why is that? It's because transparency, what does it do? It builds trust, obviously. Now, all the Australians that are suffering disability, they desperately need support via the NDIS. I am not doubting that. But unfortunately, the government's, the Albanese government's inability to constrain the cost and restrict the rorts surrounding this scheme is unfortunately threatening its viability. Now, this is bad news. It's obviously bad news for Australians, but it's bad news for those that are reliant on the scheme as well. Now, there's obviously one other group that is bad news for. It's bad news for everyone who's paying their taxes. And why is that? Because it's a massive, massive cost. Now, NDIS Minister, Mr Bill Shorten, in April, he said that the NDIS had, and I'll quote him here, he said that it had lost its way. That's what he said. Now, Minister Shorten, that is nothing short of mastery. He is a master of understatement. That's what he is. Now, the NDIS is expected, or is estimated to cost taxpayers a staggering $41.9 billion this financial year. $41.9 billion. Astonishingly, though, that number is tipped to skyrocket to $89.4 billion a year within the next decade. Now, this scheme, what does it do? I'll tell you what it does. It puts pink bats to shame. That's what it does, pink bats to shame. Now, it is an uncapped, demand-driven program that, if left unchecked, will drive our nation into the ground financially. Obviously, $89.4 billion is not a small sum. Now, in my office, I have been contacted and inundated, actually, I've been inundated with whistleblowers calling out dangerous and unqualified providers who are milking the cash cow that is the NDIS every single day. Now, where are the checks and balances? That's what I'd like to ask. Where are they? Now, it is estimated that unscrupulous providers are defrauding the scheme to the tune of $300 million a year. And you know what? That's probably an underestimation as well. Now, with so many people reliant on the NDIS, and with obviously so much taxpayer money involved, where it's going to be close to $100 billion in this decade, close to, it is essential that the recommendations from the independent review be made publicly available. Now, Mr Shorten, he must not keep secret the review and only drip-feed his favourite recommendations. That's not the way to do it. He must not bury the things that he deems as just too hard. Now, if the NDIS has lost its way, as the minister has said before, which I think it clearly has, I agree with him, it has lost its way, then obviously $41.9 billion of public funding has also lost its way. Now, the NDIS review, along with all of its recommendations, do not belong to the government. I'll tell you who they belong to. I'll tell you they belong to the Australian taxpayer. That's who they belong to. Now, with transparency, and I keep calling for transparency in this place, and we're yet to receive it. With transparency, we can ensure the long-term viability of the NDIS. That's what we can do. Now, this is too important an issue for the government to deal with in the dark. It's just too important. People need this service. This service needs to be here long into the future, and we need to make sure that it's sustainable. That's what we need, sustainable. So I probably won't say this often. But I'm going to say it today. I thank Senator McKim for this motion. There is one thing that he and I and the Greens will always agree on, and that thing is obviously transparency. It's holding the government to account. It's making sure that the Australian taxpayer gets looked after and gets what they're paying for. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my kind of